Hello guys, and welcome to another React with 7 outdoor objects I never saw before moving to America. I can't think of any. The thumbnail was a fire hydrant. I don't know where you get your water from to put out fires if there's no fire hydrants, but
Hello,
let's
I'm
find
Lawrence,
out.
and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And speaking of lost, I'm starting to lose my marbles being in quarantine so long, and being here for now, I think it's 8 days. I've been giving some thought
5
to
years
some of the
ago.
things that I miss about the outside world.
Ah,
And,
2020
I'm
was
not just
5
talking
years
about
ago.
sort of fast food joints that are different in both countries, but
Jeez.
sort of just really random, mundane objects. Like a wheelbarrow, for example. I'm not suggesting we don't have wheelbarrows in England. That's an example of a mundane object. And I want to talk about specifically 7 of those objects that I hadn't seen until I moved to America.
Okay. Steel water
Yep,
towers.
I'm really longing for those water towers, steel water towers specifically, because we do have water towers
Made of
in Britain,
wood.
but they're concrete and look
Concrete.
really brutalist and like they were made in the 60s.
Looks like it belongs in a
all
prison.
Across the country, they have these kind of water towers that are they're in the middle of nowhere usually, and they're made of steel, and on the facade of them, they have the name of the town, and it's usually something like Snakesville. And
You know why they're in the middle of nowhere is because there's someone living there.
you never see anybody near them or in them. I don't know what they'd be doing in them, perhaps replenishing the water. I don't know how water towers work.
Well, basically, water goes in first, I think, and then it gets sent down via a tube that maintains water pressure in all the connected houses. But there's like multiple lines that they can activate or deactivate based on the water amount like in the tower. So they have a certain amount there just to drain, for water pressure to keep it flowing, and then they flood it in, but they can flood more in if they need to keep up with the local demand. But it's all automated. I think it's, well, most of it's automated at least.
I just know that America has a lot of them, and you see them when you're on the highway, motorway, just like our next
They're pretty
entry.
tall. They're pretty tall.
Yes, highway-based billboards. Who would have thought? I certainly wouldn't have until I moved to the United States. And that's because we don't really have them in Britain. We do have them in city centres, but you're not going to find them on the side of the road, because it's distracting, especially when it says something, profound like Jesus has risen.
I literally just went to the doctor yesterday, and the amount of signs we've seen like that, I was just laughing nonstop because we were like at a parking lot. I don't know why. She just saw one of them and she was just laughing nonstop. There was so many of those just on the road.
You're going to take notice of that and, crash into the car in front of you. And if you don't have insurance, then you are screwed. Ironically,
In a lot of states, you're not allowed to drive unless you have insurance. Not just own a car. You're not allowed to drive someone else's car unless you're insured. Fun fact. Because I moved here with a driver's license, and I was offered to drive someone else's car. And then I learned that in this state specifically, you need insurance to drive someone else's car. That wasn't a thing in New York.
a lot of the billboards
I
are
think.
for insurance.
I don't know.
So at least you know who to call. I joked a moment ago about the kinds of things you might see on American highway billboards, but the truth is, anyone
Is his wife right behind him on her phone? Like, just scrolling through her phone while he's recording this. He's like, I'm gonna record a video now, honey. You can stay in the room. Just be absolutely quiet. I'm trying to sound like him.
can really get an ad on those things. They often say, advertise here if there's nothing on it. And unless you have A, no heart, and B, a death wish, you also wouldn't want to crash into the back of one of these.
Yeah, they don't have those, do they?
I didn't grow up here as a child, so of course I never got to ride one. Probably never will, unless I become a bus driver or a parent on some sort of school trip. Do they do that? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, growing up, I did see school buses, yellow school buses, in films like Superman and...
If you had any other... If you were on a yellow school bus and you were not in one of those situations, I think the cops would be getting called.
Forrest Gump, those are just examples of films, but I didn't think they existed in real life. This was quite a revelation to me. They're everywhere. It's not just...
I didn't think they were real. I didn't think it was a real thing.
It's not just in Indiana where I lived. It's also in Chicago. It's everywhere. I mean,
yes.
You do see these yellow school buses
Indeed.
everywhere. And I recognize that the majority of my audience is American. And this is probably profoundly weird to hear somebody talk about how yellow school buses are very widespread in this country.
It's not weird. It's entertaining. I am amused.
But I don't think they're used anywhere else in the world, or at least to my knowledge. They're certainly not used in Britain. I used to get to school by jogging. That's not true.
Well,
I did take the bus, but it was one of those sort of stagecoach buses. Double-decker, so I got to sit on top, not at the back with the cool kids, at the front actually. And but they weren't yellow. And as you can see, I like yellow. I'm wearing this in solidarity with the school children.
Well, see, I'm from New York City, so I didn't ride a school bus either. I just walked to school. The first time I got to walk to school by myself, I was like 6 years old. I didn't get to walk the whole way. They let me walk like half the way. And then by the time I was 7, I was walking like half a mile, I think, through the city, just on my own, just from where I lived to the school. So, yeah.
I'm not.
No school buses there.
The first thing I found in my wardrobe. I'd be lying if I said that yellow school buses were the only outdoor object that I learned through the films. That also applies to our next entry.
White picket fences.
White picket fences, the like of which you see in the film.
I can see that. It's very suburban.
It reminds...
Suburban. This is literally... This basically, although not quite from this angle, but what you're looking at in American textbooks, this is shown when we learn what the American dream is. Why did everyone migrate here? What were they wanting? What was everyone aiming for after World War II, after the war? Like, what did they want? Bam! The American dream. This is how it's portrayed in modern day. Big house, white picket fence. I guess before that, it used to be free land being given to you if you so much as go out and settle it. But now, this is the American dream. This is what they show as the American dream. It's always been land. It has forever been land. What is the American dream? Land. It's some kind of land. Now it's just land with a white fence. That's it. That's the only difference.
American suburbia now that I've lived here long enough. But for the
I gotta wonder... Leave in the comments if you're from another country. What do they teach you the American dream is? Because I've seen more foreigners speak about the American dream than I've seen Americans speak about the American dream. Meaning there must be some education there. And it's always different. I've heard it's a good education. I've heard it's having a lot of money. I've heard it's having a success, and just a bunch of random crap that would make someone successful is what I hear foreigners describe as the American dream. But in the American history textbooks, that's not what they teach you. They teach you, at first, it is them moving over for stuff like freedom and land that they get, that the government's handing out for free because there's just so much of it. And then by, World War II era, you get the white picket fence. With this is the new American dream. But it's never been any of those other things. And I'm just curious what other countries teach about this.
Time, it was just part of the sort of movie set for me to make something look very pristine and idyllic and all of that. You'll occasionally see white picket fences here in different parts of Chicago. They're kind of rare, I suppose. But you do tend to see them at houses of families who've really taken care of their garden. Okay, and in Britain, we don't have these kind of fences. A lot of our gardens are sort of framed off by brick walls or sometimes just shrubs and bushes and things. That's not a euphemism. You'll also see in the US mesh fences around gardens as well. They're kind of low down, they're just high enough that dogs can jump over them, but never do because they're too stupid. And they seem like they're there to just sort of stop people from breaking in. Especially those fences that have beware of the dog on the side.
Yes.
Now, please, America or anyone watching this, don't take this as a green light to think you can go and burgle people's houses in Britain. They still have security measures and fences too. I'm underplaying it, but we don't have white picket fences. We also don't have these.
Front yard mail.
Clarify.
All right, yeah. No, I'm from New York City, so I relate to this so much. When I finally moved out of New York City for the first time, because I've been in and out of it, but I've spent like half of my life in it. First time I moved out of it, and we went to a suburb, and I saw these mailboxes. I was like, it's like the movies. They have mailboxes like the movies. Because in New York City, you have the door, and you got a little flap that the mail guy comes up. He slides your little letters under, and he goes away. And that's it. That's how you get your mail. If it's a package, well, they ring the doorbell. If you're not there, they'll try again. If you're not there, eventually, you got to go to them.
Do have mailboxes in the United Kingdom, except our mail doesn't go into a mailbox, it goes into a letterbox, and our mail's called the post. I hope that was clear. And those letterboxes are usually on the front door, right? So letterman
yes.
or postman.
Yeah, we have that.
Letterman is
in New York City.
Host. Postman, post women, post people, right? They have to go right up to the door and become intimate with your house. Not so in the United States, or at least not always. You will have those kind of houses where just in front of their garden or yard, they'll have a mailbox that's sticking on kind of a pole, and there's just this tube, I suppose, a metal tube into which you put things, and then people have to go out and get it. I suppose it does promote exercise, which is needed in these quarantine days. We just don't want to come into contact with the
exercise
or male people. It doesn't matter what you call them.
Funny.
They're the same entity. Well, the different people. You get the point, basically. Don't touch the post people. And if you do, wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap, making sure not to get your water from one of these.
Why would you want to touch your mailman?
I'll tell you a story. When I was 19 years old, I was a big gamer. I was well into video games, and one of the video games that I played was a little game called Die Hard with a Vengeance. And you're just swanning around New York City, I think, probably, and you can crash your car into just stuff, right? And one of those stuff was a fire hydrant, a very American-looking fire hydrant that looks like this. They're more or less cylindrical, speaking in a pitch that only dogs recognise, and I only describe them as that to differentiate them from fire hydrants in Britain. Fire hydrants in Britain are nowhere near as sexy, and believe me, I didn't think I'd wake up today and say that either. They're just these brutalist-looking square things with an H on them, and no, they're not for landing miniature helicopter, nor do they signify a hospital. I actually don't know.
So they have a fire hydrant equivalent. It's just not like a fire hydrant. It's a fire square on the wall.
What they do. If a fire breaks out in the middle of the road, when does that ever happen? I wouldn't know what to do. I don't know how to operate these things, right? Who does? The experts. Whereas American fire hydrants are absolutely gorgeous. They kind of look like elongated fireman helmets. Was that on purpose? Again, for the benefit of the dogs. It can't have been, and I'm absolutely certain I wouldn't have made the correlation had I not been stuck in here for 8 days. I'm going mad, you know? How does the outside world look right now? Do people still have wind chimes?
I'm sure
do they still,
that he's memeing. But dude, let me tell you, during the corona lockdowns, nothing changed for me at all. I stayed in my house all the time anyway, only leaving to go to the doctors, basically. And I just stayed here and I played games all the time. And what changed for me was that suddenly so many of my friends were always available and always wanting to play games and always wanting to hang out. I was meeting so many new individuals, and the MMOs that I was playing were just booming, skyrocketing in popularity. In fact, the world got a lot better in my experience. Like, social activity increased tremendously. It was awesome. And then they were handing out free money, the stimulus, it was great. Yet, for so many individuals, and again, I'm sure he's memeing, but this is a meme of how the average person was reacting. They acted like they were going crazy, man. They were getting depressed for like living my lifestyle for the past decade or so for a week. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? How? You're like, I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it.
They still raise these?
It's crazy. It's insane.
The American flag, and I suppose there's a very good reason as to why I didn't encounter this until I moved to America. It's because it's America's flag, so that makes total sense right off the bat. I think in Britain, pound for pound, we probably, or at least when I lived there, didn't fly the flag, the British flag, as much as America tends to fly its flag. It's very culturally ingrained to do that, isn't it?
Because it's important.
In-laws do it. Everybody does it. Even educated fleas do it. That would be impossible.
It was like the biggest sign of resistance against the British. So other flags are usually not an symbol of existential, like, reality, I guess, right? It was the symbol of a literal surrender or not. So naturally, that's gonna pervade itself into the culture. It's funny though, usually when I not speak directly to Europeans, it's only the ones you read in like comments sections, and they bring up the American flag. They talk about it, calling it like, oh, it's fascist, it's fake nationalism. They just find a bunch of ways to insult it.
Strength to lift up fabric. But they're bloody smart, hence being educated. I don't know how I got sidetracked there. But yes, the US flag is absolutely everywhere. Again, this is not just...
Unrelated. Another thing I've noticed about like Europeans, just foreigners in general, is they call us the US. Basically, never in my education did I hear anyone call it the US. You do hear United States, usually in the context of United States of America, but most colloquially, just everywhere I've seen, you just call it America, right? I've occasionally called it US when speaking to foreigners to try to, I don't know, make them understand things easy, less work for me. But I wonder why foreigners, like specifically Europeans, I've noticed, are so quick to call it the US and not America. I don't know. Maybe it's similar to how we're calling the Roman Empire after a certain date the Byzantine Empire, despite the fact that they never changed their name. Maybe it's like that.
Something you'll see in films. And I think there's an understanding that Americans are deeply patriotic/patriotic. How do you pronounce it? Let me know in the comments below. And it's not just outside of people's houses that you'll see these flags. You'll see them on the back of trucks. You'll see them hanging on sort of company buildings.
Yeah, dude, I saw a house that just had a gigantic metal flagpole in front of it that had it.
Like that. And just sort of everywhere. I mean, it really is everywhere. Sometimes you'll see absolutely huge American flags. And, you can usually see them for about 5 miles away. That way you know what country you're in. And so that's it. 7 outdoor objects 5 miles away. That way at least you know what country you're in.
Yes.
And so that's it. 7 outdoor objects I only encountered after moving to America. I just wanted to list those to remind us of what we're missing. I mean, admittedly, we're missing quite a bit more than those things. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Lost in the Pond US if you want more weird information like this.
Great.
And don't forget.
That was a good video. 7 outdoor objects. The flag, well, obviously. The fire hydrants, that kind of surprised me, but okay, a little box. Honestly, I thought fire hydrants would look like this everywhere, and I thought if you just didn't have a fire hydrant, you would burn to death. I never imagined them any other way. Ever. Even games where you can, like, city builders? You ever play a city builder? And they have fire hydrants. They always look like this. They either always look like this or they just don't have fire hydrants in the game. And it's just like the fire department just brings their own water entirely somehow. Mailboxes. Did I expect this? I don't know if I expected this, but like I kind of had a similar culture shock. White picket fences, obviously. Yellow school buses, yeah. Billboards, kind of surprising, but I guess we are a consumer culture. The water towers also, well, I mean, they still have water towers. They're just not steel. So I guess that one surprised me, but it's also like, it's not crazy, but that was that. That was a good video. If you want to see me react to any videos, leave your suggestions in the comments below. Do not leave links. YouTube will eat those right up. Got a Discord in the description below. I have now, as the time of recording this, set up a channel specifically so you can put your reacts in. It's called the React Suggestions channel. So go in the Discord and leave your suggestions there for anything you might want me to react to. But this can be it for now. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.